What's going on, everyone? Welcome back into In the Groove. This is episode 30. Cheers if you're drinking coffee with me. Of course, you already know I have that Four Sigmatic mushroom coffee keeping me alert, oriented, focused, and on point, hopefully, for this podcast. I rave about them all the time. They're not a sponsor. I just love their coffee. So I'll include a link below in the show notes and description if you're interested in good coffee that stimulates you in more than just a jittery caffeine way. So I hope you all are having a great day, had a great week. Feels good to be back on the regular podcasting schedule. I'm going to be putting shows out every week. So yeah, stay tuned. And hope you're enjoying them as usual. Today, I want to talk about stories from the road and tour tips. So, I've been traveling the past few months. Well, recently the past few weeks. We've been on a little winter, Christmas, holiday break and whatnot. So, we're taking a few weeks off, but we're getting back into the swing of things next week. So I'm excited about that. Anyways, what's been going on? I've been taking some time to compose recently. Been just coming up with some musical ideas and trying to write an up-tempo funk song for Sneezy. Sort of in the I don't know. One of my favorite bands is Ghost Note, as some of you might know, led by the great Robert Sput Seawright and his partner in crime, Nate Worth, the percussionist. They're both in Snarky Puppy, and then they're off doing their own thing as Ghost Note, which is this killer funk band, and they are sort of an archetype for me and everything I do in regards to some new aged funk, I guess you could say. So I've been taking some time to get away from my drums and more into the musical side of things, and that's always a great practice if you don't already have a more melodic oriented practice in your musicianship bag of tricks. Yeah, take some time to sit down just at a keyboard and plunk out note for note just some musical ideas that will inspire you when you get back on your drum set. It's nice to think melodically instead of just rhythmically all the time. So, and the cool thing is if you're a drummer and you can take simple melodic ideas but make them rhythmically interesting, it just gives you a nice lens or perspective to approach composition that a lot of people might not have. So been taking some time to do that, which is nice. Besides that, I went to a comedy show at the Laugh Factory in Chicago this past weekend. That was so much fun. Just another random piece of advice: go take time to see other art besides music, or go see great music, great shows. I know it's tough, obviously, with some places still being I guess restricted with COVID bullshit. So when you can go see shows or any sort of art that inspires you, it just helps rejuvenate that creative spirit. And it helped me just recognize that, man, even though there's everyone up there at the comedy show is performing stand-up comedy, they all had their own approach and styles and takes to how to perform on stage. And it was cool to see and understand, like, everyone has their own style, their own perspective. Everyone has a different take on how to do something. So sort of took that into consideration and thought about how it relates with drumming and what we do as musicians. So that's a little side piece of advice. Go see some art. Go get inspired. It's visual art, comedy, a good movie, more music, anything like that. But today, like I said, I just want to get into some stories from the road and offer you some tips if you're ever going out on tour, specifically tips that will save you money. Money saving tips for anyone who's trying to do the touring thing for the first time maybe, or you're thinking about getting into touring with your band, or you want to take on some of the logistics and booking side of things. I'm going to talk about 3 money saving tips that will help you save money on the road. Because unfortunately, touring is not always a majorly profitable endeavor, especially when you're first starting out. Going to be a lot of sleeping on floors like you might have heard of. A lot of driving. It's great to see the country, but most of the country is honestly just a whole lot of nothing. Whole lot of land. Whole lot of gas stations. If you're lucky, you'll stop at the nice gas stations, the Loves. I'm trying to think. Nice quick trips. All that good stuff. And sometimes gas stations have some cool souvenirs and stuff. But anyways, let's get into it. So first story from the road, I sort of mentioned on the last episode how we had a manager who's not with us anymore. And that's a crazy story I kind of wanted to detail just a little bit, not trying to rip on anyone. Don't want to say this gentleman's name just because that's not what I'm trying to do, not trying to rip anyone, but it is sort of a crazy story and has a good lesson to it. So we were out in Colorado with our manager, who also provided he was also putting some money into the band, so he helped buy our van. He helped pay for the recording of our latest album. But this guy sort of had an ego and didn't want to take in our opinions when it came to where to spend the money and how to spend the money, yada yada. There were creative differences here and there, and we just sort of let it be because we needed the financial help. So we just dealt with whatever bumps came along the way, and it ended up sort of culminating to a breaking point in this particular tour. Like I said, we were out in Colorado. We had actually hired this saxophone sub. Her name is Destiny, badass saxophone player on the Chicago area. And so she wasn't used to the way this dynamic of manager and band. She wasn't used to the dynamic we had and the relationship we had with our manager. So she, being an experienced touring musician, would sort of just chirp at him and get in his ear about certain things. And he didn't like that very much. So that was the start of it. And then it all sort of erupted for a multitude of reasons. And again, I don't want to get into too many personal details, but basically he got fed up with us. We were sort of fed up with him. We were out in the Denver area. We had one show left on this tour, and he's like, I'm going home, blah, blah, blah. I'm canceling the show tomorrow. And we're like, no, man, we're gonna stay here and we're gonna play the show. And he basically just left back home to Chicago with our van again. He paid for some of it, but so did we, and we even ran a GoFundMe to pay for it. So that was low, but whatever. All that aside, he took the van and trailer home, but we took out all of our gear and we're like, we're playing this show at RMU out in Breckenridge, because we've played there like 4 times now, have a great reputation there, have a good fan base out in Breckenridge, have some friends and stuff out there too. So we're like, we're not missing this show just because our manager's pissed, our former manager. So we ended up, yeah, taking all our gear out of our trailer. Had to scramble to rent a U-Haul all in the same day, and then borrow our singer Brett, his sister's car, to drive the U-Haul, and a separate car from Denver to Breckenridge. And Brett and Jack had to drive that U-Haul all the way back to Chicago on their own instead of having 6 other people to switch off driving with, which was a huge, I mean, shout out to them for doing that, because driving from Denver to Chicago with 6 people rotating is one thing, or 7 people, but driving from Denver to Chicago with 2 people rotating is a much greater challenge. I've actually had to do that before with Tom, our bass player, in a previous run. So I know how that feels. It's not easy. It's actually even a little dangerous. I would not recommend it to anyone, but shout out to them for doing it. So anyways, moral of that story is, if you're going to get a manager, or if you're going to bring anyone outside of the band onto the team and there's money involved, make sure there are clear set boundaries before that process starts to happen, of being able to agree on what the money's going to be spent on, the limits of this person's influence. If they're going to be contributing financially to the band, they might not necessarily need to have any creative control or control over logistics, stuff like that. Just define your boundaries when you get someone involved financially or for the business side of things when you're starting off. Or, I mean, not even when you're starting off, but anytime you get someone else involved in matters that pertain to the band. So the tour was great. And we even, when we told the story to the owners of the venue, and how we're going to be out all this money because now we had to rent a U-Haul for a few days, and it cost like $1,200 to $1,500. They were great. They gave us an extra show to play, like an after party acoustic set to play for an extra few $100. Gave us food for the whole night. We had a brewery owner let us stay at their place to figure out the situation overnight and all that stuff. So it ended up turning out to be totally fine, but we had to learn a lesson the hard way. So yeah, it's interesting the things that can, if you push something off for long enough and there are disagreements or any sort of resentment building up, it can blow up at a bad time. So don't let that happen. Address problems when they come up in a calm, communicative manner. and just make sure everyone's on the same page before things end up blowing up and you're thousands of miles away from your home because someone might choose to leave you stranded. Um, but yeah, anyways, that's a story from one of our trips out to Colorado. We played in like Lincoln, Nebraska on the way out and some other spots. Like I said, I've been on 3 runs in the past few months. They were each about like two weeks long. We went out to Colorado. We went out to um, another run. We went out to like Louisiana and Kansas City, Missouri, and Lawrence, Kansas, and a few other spots. And then the most recent run, we went out to Mobile, Alabama, and Orange Beach, Alabama, and went down to New Orleans, and um, we're also in like Cincinnati, Ohio, and Louisville, and I just flipped the orders of all of those stops, so it doesn't make sense from a routing and logistics perspective if you just heard me name all those out loud. But yeah, we hit those, and it's been a lot of fun. It's been so cool to see that we have fans showing up from either they saw us at a previous show and came back, or they found us on Instagram from, I don't know, maybe a friend sharing something. So our last run, we actually had fans at every single show who have seen us before, which was so cool. And we even had some super fans who drove 5 hours just to see us in New Orleans, which was nuts. It was very humbling and rewarding just to hear that. And it meant a lot to me and the band. And it's just crazy to think that our music or music in general can mean enough to someone that they drive 5 hours just one way to come see a 2 hour show. So it just goes to show the method of building a fan base, touring, building some circuits that you can hit a few times a year. Like, that method and blueprint, it works if you put in the time. But like I said, unfortunately, it's not always the most profitable endeavors, especially when you're first starting out. So today I wanted to share just a few tips on how you can save some money when you're going out on tour for the first few times. So, first tip, really pretty obvious to anyone who's been doing this for a while, but it feels weird to ask for when you're coming to a town for the first time, or your band isn't that well known in that area. The first tip is ask the venue for help with lodging. Lodging is a very expensive cost if you're out on the road. Staying in hotels can add up really quickly. Same thing with Airbnbs, especially when you're traveling with 6 to 7 band members like we are. So ask the venue for either to cover the hotel expenses, ask if they have any contacts that could help you stay the night, even if it's just floor space. I know it sucks, but get a mattress pad, get a sleeping bag, bring your pillow and your blanket, because that's the reality of touring and doing it the sort of grassroots way. A lot of venues have, I should say, a lot of established venues have connections with hotels where they'll get discounts because they will send their bands there all the time. So if it's not a discount, sometimes they should be covering it completely once you get to a certain level. But sometimes you're not playing at a venue, you're playing at a bar with a stage air quotes. Um, and they might not have an Airbnb or lodging prepared. And if that's the case, ask ahead, like, hey, can you or anyone from the bar or any friends just have us stay over for the night? Do you have any floor space, extra beds, extra couches, anything like that? And although it's not glamorous, it helps save thousands of dollars over several nights if you're getting your lodging taken care of. And those thousands of dollars you can either reinvest or put in your pockets at the end of the tour. So that's the first major tip. Ask if they can help out with lodging. Now, food and drinks are pretty typical of most venues and bars. But if you don't ask ahead and they didn't agree to it, don't expect it. So I should tie food and drinks in with lodging as well. Again, pretty standard. But if they don't explicitly say it, say, hey, we typically get a meal and, I don't know, like either a tab or a couple free drinks per person. Let's make sure that's happening. And then what's the lodging situation? Can you help out at all? And most places with a decent reputation will be willing to work with you, even if they can't provide totally free lodging. And again, another thing you can throw in there if you're first starting out is, all right, we'll make it work this time around. If we crush it, if we bring people in, if we have great bar sales, just keep in mind for the next time we come around, we would like to try to have that covered somehow. And again, most people will work with you, especially if you have a good band and they see that you're putting in effort to promote it. They see that the bar sales were great that night and it's worth having you back. They're more than likely to work with you. So the second tip to save some money on the road is to hit up Sam's Club or Costco or any of the more economical grocery stores before you leave for the road and pack coolers of food so that you don't have to eat at restaurants every time you're hungry out on the road. That adds up fast, especially if you're getting a beer at dinner or something. It's an off night. You're not playing at a venue. You're just getting food and you don't have your own kitchen to cook in on the road. Restaurant bills can add up quick. So pack a cooler full of food, stuff like, and preferably healthy food, but just simple things like sandwich supplies, fruits. I like mixed nuts, so like cashews, almonds, walnuts, all that good stuff. Protein bars, things that are nutritious and gonna keep you energized instead of make you feel fat and unhealthy. Obviously, when you're on the road, it's taxing on your body. So you want your food to be able to energize you and not weigh you down. So spend the money at a grocery store. Bring a big cooler. Thankfully, we have the van, a van that's big enough to put a big cooler or two in the back. Pack up food for about a week. And then if we run out, we can hit another grocery store when we're on the road. Again, instead of having to just eat at restaurants every time. Tip number 3, and this might be the most important, is if you're at a bar or even a venue, we do this at some venues too, push a tip jar and push merch sales. We've had nights, for example, the gig we played when our manager bailed on us, we made over $700 extra in tips and merch sales because people, when they relate with a band and you're honest and authentic, they want to help you out and see you succeed. A lot of people that come to music shows, not all people, but a lot of people have full-time day jobs and careers, and they're salaried employees, and they live for the weekend. They live to go out and see musicians, and they want to support them too if they feel a connection with the band. So a lot of people feel shame for asking for tips or asking people to buy merch, but it's such an important revenue stream aside from the guarantees at your shows. And a lot of times if you're playing if you're playing a venue for the very first time, they're not going to give you a great guarantee because they don't know. They've never seen you before. They don't know if you're going to draw a crowd. There's so much unknown for them that they don't want to invest too much into your first time being there. So if you push a tip jar, you push merch sales, that can sometimes even double your pay for the night if you do it right. Now, there's a way to do it that's more classy isn't the word. There's an appropriate way to mention that you have a tip jar. And things we like to say are, we love playing music for you. It's been a tough few years with COVID for the musicians in general and for the entertainment industry. So anything you can contribute and anything you can do to help support us goes such a long way, and we appreciate anything and everything that you can give. More often than not, people will at least throw in a few extra bucks. They'll buy a CD, they'll buy a shirt, and another thing we throw in is, and if you don't have any money, another way you can support that's totally free is just to tell your friends if you had a great time, and then go like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram. So even if it's not $20 in the tip jar, even if it's not $5 in the tip jar, if you can bring, if two people bring two friends each to the next show, you're going to get more and more people at your shows. Your guarantees are going to go up. They're going to be more willing to buy and listen to your music. And it's sort of just, again, the concept of investing into yourself, having other people support what you're doing, and feel good about supporting a good band. I know in my own experience, I love supporting people on Patreon that I believe in. I love buying merch from my favorite bands because it allows them to keep making more music, keep touring in our area, and then again play for me, which I love. Obviously not just for me, but if you're contributing to them, it allows them to go back out on the road, make more music, etc. So that's basically all I have for today. I know it was pretty concise. That sounds like I'm bragging. It probably wasn't even that concise. I'm still working on being able to speak clearly and finish my trains of thoughts. That's it for today. I just wanted to share a few tips about saving money on the road, interesting tour story, and basically catch you all up in a brief summary of what I've been up to recently. Sneezy's going to be back out on the road in February. I don't have exact dates yet. I will keep you all posted on that. If you want to come catch us live, say what's up to me if I'm ever in your town. I'd love to chat with any other drummers or musicians who happen to be listening to the podcast. Next week, we're going to be at the Mousetrap in Indianapolis. That's January 15th. Then on the 21st, we'll be in Madison, Wisconsin. You can check us out. I don't even know the venue. Gosh, this is terrible promotion. I apologize. But then the 22nd, we'll be at Libertyville at Mickey Finn's. And then on the 27th, we'll be in Iowa City at El Rey's, which is more of a college bar and venue. So anyways, I hope you all have a great day, great rest of your week. As always, feel free to hit me up on Instagram, via email, leave a comment, like and subscribe if you feel so inclined. And besides that, just keep crushing it. I'll see you next week. Have a good one. Peace.